So German finger gauntlets, and yes, I know that these things are a little bit big, but again, what are you armoring against? Now, in this case, when I'm wearing these right here, it's kind of the same idea, but I'm not expecting to face any kind of real brutal heavy weaponry, and it might be nice to have my fingers a little bit. So the idea of that is, again, when you're doing full armored combat, there's a lot more grappling than what you see in the movies. We're not swinging weapons that much because there's really my weapon is not going to go through full plate. It's just not. His is not going to go through mine. Mine's not going to go through his. And we're not going to waste energy on body blows and stuff like that because it's a waste of time. You're going for the head to ring their bell. That's it. I'm not going through the helmet either, but we're going through the head to try to ring their bell. And most of it is with pommel strikes more than anything else, because even unless you're carrying something like this flamberge up here, you're not going to hit with enough impact to really do anything. And the one-handed sword, and I'll pull out a couple of those if you guys want, it's really not going to do enough to any kind of real helmet. Anybody who's armored correctly, it's not going to do them. It'll ring your ears a little bit, but it's not going to ring your bell. And ringing your bell is what we're trying to do. This flamberge here, yeah, that'll ring your bell. That thing, even the tip cracking in there, man, you're going to get, falling down. So when you need the finger dexterity that I still have to be able to grab a hold of, lock in, or get my hand inside of their breastplate over here so that I can take them for a ride. That's where these things come into a lot of advantage. Now, even though you could see that they are pretty well plated over here, and this is great, it'll stand up to a sword slash, it'll stand up to a sword thrust, but it will not stand up to like a pommel strike or anything like that, because there's no way for the plates to ground out. You want them grounded out against the butt of the weapon, whether you're holding a spear, a sword, hammer, axe, lucerne hammer, it doesn't really matter. But you want these plates to ground out against it so that they disperse the energy when you take the shot. You can't really do it with these. So, again, it goes back to our premise, what are we armoring against? So in any kind of single one-on-one combat, I'm always going to wear finger gauntlets. Always going to wear finger gauntlets because I have a pretty good idea where the shot is coming from. All right, I know generally which direction the attack is going to come from, so I can protect against that. In melees or scrums, you have no idea. So in that case, I'm going to be wearing the mitten gauntlets as opposed to the finger gauntlets, because I'll give up the dexterity for the protection. Because I find that, and I've been through a lot of these, is that if I'm still upright, I'm a lot more of a threat than if I'm walking off the field with half my fingers broken. So that's it. They do have good dexterity. These have great dexterity, and you can swing. I should just leave this out, huh, Bill? You can hold heavy weaponry with it quite good, and it does give you an impressive look. I mean, any way you see it, I'm sorry, that just looks cool as hell. And these are great, but there really is no protection here. So if I was to take an axe hit or a hammer hit or even a really good stout sword hit right here, it is going to pulverize my fingers underneath these. I mean, they're just not, that's it. That one shot, sword falls to the ground because my fingers are broken, and that's kind of it. So again, what are you armoring against, and what's the point? What are you doing this for? In any kind of one-on-one scenario, just because I've been doing it for 25 years, I know which direction the attack's coming from. I'm not saying I win them all, because I don't. Nobody does. But I am much more likely to determine where the shot is coming from this direction. Now, the other neat thing, and I didn't really talk about these, is these right here. If you guys see these right here. Now, these are called Gadlings. This one is kind of a low res. I didn't want to make them too aggressive, but these little things right over here, up and down here, these are called Gadlings, and these are the things that'll allow you to punch through a brick. They're actually anchored on 3 different parts off from these plates, and you can see that they'll move up and down just fine, giving you your flexibility. But when you actually fist up and you're throwing that shot, look at where landing with this. Look at where that shot is coming from. So I've always kind of deemed them peasant killers. If you're hitting an unarmored person with this, You're Iron Man. I'm sorry, man. Look, you are Iron Man effectively in this. I will punch through bricks with these things, and I won't even feel it. Because if it is properly built and properly designed and properly fitted, these Gadlings sit a good ½ inch above my knuckles. All right. No part of this is touching my skin even close. It is literally protected by the heavy plates that are protected or that are layered up and spaced and even across the back of my hand. These are the things that get busted up. And anybody who's ever fought knows you hurt your knuckles, you hurt your fingers, and all that other good stuff. That ain't going to happen with this. All right. It's just not going to happen. So these are also a very, very important element of gauntlet design are the Gadlings. Now, my personal ones, I'm not going to show them, Bell, because mine are considered evil accoutrements of armor, because I use what are called really aggressive pyramid Gadlings, and my Gadlings actually sit up about that high, about that much higher. So when I roll over, it basically creates a old weapon called I think it was called a casta back from the Roman days. Yeah, so when I actually roll out, the points are straight off the end of my knuckle. If you're making any kind of contact, they're brass knuckles with points on the end of them. Those are considered evil accoutrements of armor. No really noble, upwardly mobile, noble type of knight would wear something like that. But I've been the whole time we were doing the Ren Fair circuit, I was always the Dark Knight. I was a bad guy. I can wear whatever hell I want because I was the bad guy. So yeah, a lot of plates, a lot of interconnectedness. I made this a long time ago. It was not correctly designed. I'll show you a correctly designed one. And the fact that I didn't know what slotted rivets were or what it meant or why I would need them. Now, you can see if I hold this all the way down and I'm forcing my hand as far left and as far right as I can, that I'm not getting a lot of movement up there. That means that this is a poorly made gauntlet. Now, I made it. I'll own it. It was early in my career, and I didn't know what I was doing. But this is an incorrectly made gauntlet in the fact that these things are not slotted. Any other time and any other piece that has my mark on it, you're going to see nice little, wherever the rivet points are, you're going to see a slot that I have to file out by hand. So instead of a single hole for the rivet, there's a sideways slot for the rivet. So we put it in, washer on the other side, peen it down, and then that rivet allows that plate to slide back and forth just a little bit. And just a little bit from here to here to here is really all you need to be able to have full wrist movement back and forth while wearing this type of armor. It doesn't give up a lot of strength. Well, I mean, anytime you take metal off from something, Bell, you're going to give up some strength. But it doesn't really kill you too much structural integrity of the gauntlet. And it gives you so much more mobility is that it only makes sense to do that. So any of the actual existing period pieces that I've ever seen up nice and close were all slotted. So there's got to be a reason that everybody was slotting them. So I started slotting them. And as soon as I started doing that, I realized two things, Bell. One, I'm not charging enough because that takes forever. You're hand filing these things. You're not going to Dremel tool 1050. All right. You're just not going to. You're using rat tail files or jeweler's files or making Bell do it. And yeah, it was a terrible pain in the ass. So that's why I charge so much. And we'll get back to that. I got one more little one to show you up here. This is a real old piece. I haven't actually ever completed this one. I might get back to it someday. This would have been from the 16th century, which is kind of getting into the Maximilian era. And you can see how high up that actually, the cuff of this actually rides up. That's my elbow right there. So this piece actually rides up, almost acting like a vambrace. And this will be a cased piece when it's finished up. You can see the discoloration and how it has got an anatomical shape to it. Let me see if I can get closer and still say, because I'm actually proud of this piece. But if you look close, you guys can see how it actually has kind of an anatomical shape to it from the top all the way down. You see how it gets narrower at the wrist and it blows up to actually take your forearm muscles so that we can make these things fit. Effectively skin tight. Well, I mean, over your skin tight over your arming clothes. But most of the images you see in the wood cuttings and all that other stuff where that armor fits them like a glove, typically it's done in this fashion. This ain't cheap. All right, it just ain't cheap. And if you look at all the fluting that you have to put up and down here to secure a piece like this, and this isn't even halfway fluted yet. I think I got it marked better on the inside. All those little black lines, that's the fluting that I haven't put into this yet, because this piece has been work hardened. And what work hardening is that when you're using medium carbon steel and you have to heat it, and you're going to have to heat it. There's no way to do this cold. But as soon as it cools down, you've excited the carbon atoms, and it starts to turn it slowly into spring steel. And once it's spring steel, that's, our end goal for all of this stuff, so that it'll take a hit, it'll flex, and it'll pop back out to its original position. But it makes it a bitch to flute. So I'd actually have to normalize that piece and to actually finish the fluting. I might finish it someday. I might not. I don't know. All right, Bill. I got bazu bands. I got a greave. I got a leg. Let's do the leg. I haven't done the Italian leg. I haven't showed this up a little bit.
Do the leg.
Now, me personally, when I was growing up through my early career, it was high Gothic. I loved high Gothic. So something like this breastplate right here, which has got a little surface rust, please forgive me. But something like this would have been considered high Gothic. This is not the best piece I've ever made. It's just the one that I got in my shop right now, and it's actually kind of cool. These are called gussets. This was actually brilliant, man. This little piece of metal right here gave you that much more coverage, but that much more distance when you bring your arm across yourself. So the amount of movement that you got out of this, and it's only held in place with a very cleverly shaped plate and a sloppy rivet, so that you can get that much more movement out of your armor and still be fully encased, because this will take every bit of hit that this will take. Not a problem. This particular one is a 3-piece design, meaning that there's a placard, a lame, and then the actual breastplate. This portion up here is called the breastplate. This is just this is just a lame, and this is called a placard. So they're all designed differently. But the kind of cool thing about this, and if I hold it up, you can maybe, if I can get the angle right, you can kind of see the shape of it. The cool thing about this particular design is because we made it in 3 pieces, I didn't have to heat treat or do so much heat treating on it or so much movement, with the exception of down here around the fold. Down here we had to change up. You got to heat the shit out of that, because what you're doing is creating what's called an anticlastic curve, and means that you're taking metal, bending it where it should never ever want to be bent, and maintaining shape with it at the same time. It's a bitch. All right, you're gonna have to work up to this if you just want to grab a map torch from Home Depot, heat up some steel, and have a go. You're gonna have to work up to that, but you'll get it. Just stick with it. You'll get it. But the kind of cool thing about those is that you could use different types of steel, meaning different weights of steel. Now, this particular one has this particular plate right here is 16 gauge. This is 16 gauge 1050, hardened up to about 40 HRCs. Would it survive a cannonball? Probably. You know what? I'd rather have it than not have it. I'll just kind of leave it there. But we go.
It survived being run over by your truck.
It did survive
on purpose.
Yeah, we got that video. I laid it out and drove my truck over it after I heat treated it to see if it would pop back in position, and it did. So we get another round of applause on that. But we have 16 gauge right here. That's where you're going to absorb most of your shots. If you're a clever fighter, you're going to want to take them to the gut, to the placard, because this is nowhere near your skin. This is where you want to get hit. But we went 16 here, 20 gauge here to lighten it up, because weight's a factor. And the more weight you have on you, the longer the combat goes, the more tired you're going to get. And then we just went 18 up here on the breastplate, because I can protect my chest. So it's no real problem up there. So we went heavy, very light, and moderate. And it's all about changing. It's all about the weight distribution. But because we didn't have to heat treat it so much, and or move it around so much, that the metal maintained its structural integrity. A couple different ways of doing this, and we can get into these on some how-tos if you guys are real curious, meaning dishing versus raising. And raising is always going to be superior because you're taking more metal and packing it into a smaller area. That's raising. And when you're doing that, you're making it thicker. Dishing, you're taking the metal and you're stretching it out. So anytime you're hitting it from the inside, you're stretching it and you're thinning out the metal. Now, it might be small amounts, but the more you do it and the more shape you put in, then the thinner that metal gets. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We are talking about Italian because my early days, I wanted to wear the high Gothic shit just because it looks so cool, and I wanted to be cool. As I got older and stopped caring about looking cool, I started caring about utilitarian. I went with Italian. So I got a beautiful set of high Gothic legs over here. We'll show those on the next stream. But this one here, we're going to focus on. It's a very proud piece for me, even though I never finished it up, in Italian leggings. So Italian. Now, this is a very, very good example of a traditional Italian leg. And let me see if it'll show up here on the camera at all. I got to go to this frame. So the idea behind this piece is this cop right here sitting right over the middle of my knee. But this is my junk. And I'm sorry to be so bold about this, but it's easier to illustrate it. This is my junk, and this is the actual leg. And you can see where this stops. So here's my waist right across, and you can see where this stops, only how high it gets. Now, what this offers you is incredible mobility. Absolutely incredible mobility, because you're not jamming yourself up at your most flexible point, which is right there at the hip. So anybody who's running fast, moving fast, anything like that, you're going to want that flexibility. Now, the Germans did it a little bit different way in the high Gothic piece, and I'll show you one of those. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about this one because this is actually what I wear. Now, one of the clever things about this particular piece, let's lay this out. I'm going to try to lay it out as well as I can, guys. We haven't really talked about this a whole hell of a lot. One of the clever things about this particular piece, aside from the fact that this one is so incredibly well made, that's right, Belle, I said it, is the flexibility, the actual flexibility of it. So what you're seeing right now, where I was talking earlier about slotted rivets and why I use slotted rivets, is a couple things have to happen here with a leg like this. One, it has to be able to compress. You see how we can compress this thing up and down a little bit? I want you to look at your own leg right now. Look down at your own leg and move it up and down, move it back and forth. And as you're doing that, physics is a reality in armoring. And we cannot have static steel, because if we have static steel, then as you move your leg up and down, as you start to move your leg like this and start to move your leg like this, you have physical mass that is trying to occupy the same amount of space. But because your leg has flexibility, this also must have flexibility. So as you're running, it's going to stretch out. As you're standing straight, it's going to sit up. And as you coil your knee, the metal has got to go somewhere. So you have to make allowances for this stuff. And the other fun thing about this is that it also has to move a little bit left and right. So you can see that when a person is standing up and his leg is perfectly straight, I know this is not great lighting, guys, I'll work on this. But as your leg is perfectly straight, that you could still do this with your leg. You can move it around in circles as if you were unarmored. And the whole idea behind the armory is that you can do the exact same thing whether you're wearing armor or not. And this is such an important distinction when it comes to this stuff, and it's something that never gets discussed and that gets left out constantly, is the flexibility and the mobility itself of the armor. Now, this part up here, this is called, this is actually called a vambrace, or no, vambrace, rebrace. I'm sorry, I even lost it. This is called a cuisse, C-U-I-S-E. So this is the part that protects your thigh. If you're ever going to get destroyed, you're going to get destroyed here at the knee or here at the thigh. And you can see how we got the flute patterns in here. These are called flutes. And the whole idea behind the flute pattern is a couple things. One, it's decorative and it's pretty. It makes the armor aesthetically pleasing. But the other thing that it does is that it actually adds structural integrity to the piece. Easy way for me to demonstrate that is for you to pick up a single piece of paper, hold it by the corner, and then just let the other side go. the paper is going to go straight flopping down. Now take that same piece of paper and fold a crease right down the middle of it and hold it by the crease, and that paper's not going anywhere. That's the easiest way that I can describe why we actually put things like fluting into these pieces, is so that we can it adds a level of structural integrity to the piece. So you got a cuisse, lames, knee cop, more lames, and then our last piece. This is the part that actually clips over onto the greave, and you can see that we put the fluting in each and every piece of this. Now, the other really, really important piece is this right here. It's called a fan, but you get a lot of artistry out of fans, Belle. I love fans, by the way. You can get a lot of. I'm looking at the time because Denver's on. I want to make sure we can talk about mail. Yeah, but the fans get a lot of. It's fun because as armorsmiths, it allows us to really turn it into a piece of art. So I didn't do anything very, very excessive on this one, but these little lames that you see up, or the little flutes, sorry, the little fluting pattern that we put up here probably increase the structural integrity of this little fan right here tenfold at least, because this bitch ain't moving. It is not going down. But one of the most difficult places for us to protect as an armorsmith is the back of the knee. Back of the knee, inside of the elbows. That is the most difficult portion for us to ever armor, because if we close off the back of the knee, guess what? Your fucking leg doesn't bend anymore. So if you don't mind being the Tin Man, I can case you in steel. But if you actually need to move, then it's kind of tough. So Germans had to do more of a sweeping thing, almost a lame that came all the way around the back of the knee. Italians just said, learn to protect the back of your knee, and this is kind of what came out of it. So I'm a big fan of Italian. I can protect the backs of my knees. Not always. I've getting hit there, but sometimes. And, of course, you have the other pieces. This is the other piece, wraps around the back of your thigh. You want to try to protect as much of it as you can from wrapping attacks, but they also have to move. You have to have flexibility here, because as your leg flexes, your thigh flexes and relaxes, you have to make sure that there's some movement up here. And of course, the upper portion of this thing, you can also see that has mobility. So as you bring your leg up, this piece will compress. And as you extend your leg out, this piece will straighten out. Again, the whole idea is keeping as much metal on your body as we possibly can, regardless of the conditions. So the most difficult thing to armor, and the thing that's always been the most difficult thing to armor, is the groin. Now, typically, not always, Belle, but typically, it was mostly men were out on the battle lines and fighting. I'm not saying always. Joan of Arc did exist, but typically, 90, you know what? Men were the ones that were out there on the battle lines. Men have groins, and one of the most difficult things for us to possibly protect is the groin. So for the very, very difficult parts to protect, such as seams of the neck, insides of the elbows, backs of the knees, armpits were just death, and the groin, that's where stuff like this started showing up. Now, this has been around long before plate armor showed up, was this, and this is just simply called mail. Now, I don't know how to do mail, but I know somebody who does, and she's about to go big screen, and she's going to explain why this would cover my groin, cover my hips, the most mobile parts of my body, and how it's made, why it's made, and why we wear it, and why it's done what it is. I have no fucking idea. Belle does it, so go ahead and explain it, Belle. Talk about mail.
Okay, so mail has been around since approximately the 9th century in its most common forms. Different regions had their own different styles of mail. The variety that Scott just showed is European based. That one is a 4-in-1 pattern, but that was actually specifically made for him with the idea in mind that, okay, well, it's going to look good and protect the groin while he's around moving. He's also got some voider patches for his ankles as well as his armpits that were crafted by me. Now, mail, again, Scott did mention this earlier, it was primarily used to protect against slashing injuries. European mail was actually either riveted or just straight welded together. Yes, they actually had welding back then. Don't blame the messenger. Budding, which is what you might see most of at today's Ren fairs, that wasn't done by the Europeans. The Europeans had stronger steel, so they could work it, they could form it, they could actually rivet it. The whole purpose behind that is to protect those vulnerable areas from slashing injury. Now, it did offer a little bit of protection from thrusts depending on the weapon. If it was a broad-tipped weapon with the padding that would go under the mail, again, this is all worn underneath the armor. With the padding that was under that mail, good luck getting a broad-tipped weapon through. Now, a mail is actually the reason they started inventing narrow-tipped weapons like rondelles. This is not one, but just to give you an idea, this would penetrate that mail. Arrows, if you got lucky and landed at just the right point, would penetrate that mail. If you're slashing and cutting with a sword, good luck.
No, it's and we've done tons of demos. Now there's the weaves are different. I'll leave that to Belle to explain the difference. The one that I just showed you is a 4-in-1, but they go all the way up to like King's mail, which is like 12 and 1. Is that what it is, Belle? I mean, it's so
12 and 2.
12 and 2. It's so grotesque, and how much work it would take. Somebody doing that for real, that was doing either welded or wedge riveted. I prefer flattened wedge riveted. That's what I wear myself. But the amount of work that goes into that is just stupidly ridiculous. So talk about the different types of weaves and why you would wear them, Belle.
Okay, so again, the Europeans were, most people, because of affordability, they did go for 4-in-1. That's a classic European pattern. You will see it everywhere. The other one that is traditionally a Celtic pattern is called a helm weave. It does still have the basic 4-in-1 pattern. However, the ring sizes are a little different. You do have about 6mm rings that are joined together by 4mm rings. That actually, because of the number of contact points with that weave, it's actually a strong weave. Now, again, keep in mind that these are either welded or riveted, so that makes them even stronger. The Japanese, on the other hand, had a different take. They used budded mail. Again, the whole hang on.
Yeah.
So historically, the Japanese would put on a layer of padding, then they would actually put on a layer of armor that was 2 sides of leather with mail in the middle. Now, as each segment of their armor was damaged, being budded mail, it was easier for them to go and have it repaired and just stitch back in really quick. The third type of pattern that you do see a lot at Ren fairs is a Persian weave. There isn't any reliable historical evidence that actually existed. Those patterns are usually based more on the Celtic varieties. So the Celts were actually the ones who started it all.
See, but that's where it gets interesting. And Belle, this is going back to our original premise. What are you armoring against? If we can make it now, it would make sense using traditional manufacturing methods. All I need is an anvil and a hammer. All right, I need a bighorn. But I can effectively make anything. It really doesn't matter. But if you're using traditional methods, and where you're talking about the Persian weave and how there were no real surviving examples of that, if we can make it now, it would make sense that when it really mattered, that they could have made it then. All right, we can't say just because
Absolutely.
something didn't exist that it never existed. That
Well,
is pure
and
ego to say
actually,
that.
well, and actually, that's why I was saying, okay, and I've done the research. Everything I have researched seems to indicate, and there was a lot of cross travel between the Celtic Isles and Persia.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there was.
That's actually everything I have read seems to indicate that the Persian patterns we know today actually came from the Celtic Isles.
And again, I agree with you 100%. But you know how these people are out here.
Oh,
You
I
know
know.
how they are. No, no, no. There is nothing. It wasn't in the book. We didn't see. You know what? You're full of shit. Show me your shop. You make me something, and let me critique it because
Those patterns had to come from somewhere to wind up in my binders for me to teach those bloody patterns.
Thank you.
So
Is
you
all that
explain to me where they came from.
That's all I'm saying. And it's not like they're well known for preserving historical artifacts. All right, they're full of shit. The only piece of Persian armor at all, meaning Middle Eastern, that I have on this thing, that I have on this table right now, is called a bazuband. All right, this was very, very historically accurate. These things have been around forever. Now, this is simply called, that's what this is called, is a bazuband. And all this piece did was cover you from wrist to elbow. All right, that's all that this did, was cover you from wrist to elbow. The whole idea behind this little rondelle on the end of it was another effort to try to protect your elbow, because you need your full mobility on this, but your elbow is vulnerable. Your elbow is, inside of your elbow is only always vulnerable. When I'm fighting, that's exactly what I'm going for. I'm going for the backs of your knees, the seam of your neck, or the inside of your elbow. That's what I'm, or the thumb. We've already discussed the thumb. But this is actually a Middle Eastern design that's been around forever. And the reason that it was around forever is because it was the perfect design. And you don't have to improve on something that works. You see the bottom of my elbow? Fuck no, you don't. What you see is hardened steel there. Swing away, baby. I'm going to literally block that sword shot with this thing here, because you're using a one-handed sword. My armor is going to stand up to it, no problem.
I will say, okay, the bazuband, if you know anything at all about swords that the Persians would have used, the Persians all the way up to the Hungarians, if you know anything at all about how they fight, they primarily fought from horseback.
Yes,
Okay,
which means yes,
that's where the yatagan and the kalish came in. Okay, those were literally weapons designed to be used on horseback. The bazuband, if you're on horseback and you've got your hand holding the reins, the hand is a very hard target to hit. Okay,
yeah.
that bazuband, if somebody is swinging at your arm to try and take you out, just lift your arm and boom, you've got protection.
Yes, and the Italians took it. The Italians even based. They actually based. It was called. It was a composite piece that actually went over the elbow, covered up, and effectively acted like a shield. Now I have one over there because I have my full Italian suit. And I'll show you guys if you really, really care. You know what? How about this? You got to put it in the comments. If you want to see Scott in his full suit of Italian armor, you got to put it in the comments. This stuff is a bitch to put on and off. But we have, they have extra composite pieces or attachment pieces. That's the shoulder, that's the arm, that's everything. Italians are real big on protecting that left side. We don't carry shields. When you're wearing full armor, you're not carrying a shield because you fucking are a shield. So... but it's always good to have a little bit more metal up there. And they all layered onto this stuff. Did you guys enjoy this? Do you want us to carry on, or do you just want to talk about the state of crypto? We'll do anything that you want, but obviously we have a passion about armor. We haven't even started yet. If you guys would like to see the Polish Hussar suit, it doesn't quite fit me, but it's not terrible. I'll just leave it there. It's not terrible. This was the ultimate cavalry armor, and if you want to have a little historical reference behind this, Just Google the Winged Hussars, Winged, the Winged Hussars, because I have a fully functional suit of Winged Hussars that I built for somebody that they never paid me for, so it's mine now. I actually got the pauldrons right over there, Belle. They're on the bottom of the
You
thing.
do.
Yeah.
You had some repair work to do on them.
Yeah. But we'll put the breastplate on and the bazubands and all that. That was interesting because the Winged Hussars actually wore bazubands. There's got to be something there, Belle. It means that piece of armor made it from the 11th century or the 12th century all the way to the 16th century. 400 years. That single piece of armor saw every field of battle. Tells me that was a well-designed piece of armor.
Well, and you can also tell because of the area that came from. Okay, so you've got Italy, Persia, up into Hungary and Romania.
Yep.
You've got Germany, which again, no shock there. The English made some armor, but it wasn't as striking. And then you've got Japanese. Those are the major areas where they produce steel.
Yep, and if I got a full suit of samurai armor over there, I could put that on as well. I don't like it. It's not cultural appropriation. It's just that wasn't my jam. My jam is I want to encase myself in steel and just give you the finger, man. That's yes, Belle.
Scott acquired the samurai armor as the result of a trade.
Yeah,
so
I don't
judge him for that.
I don't make it. But I traded a guy's European set for the Japanese set because I've never had one. I wanted to see what it was like. Surprisingly mobile. I mean, Belle, that was the whole thing. Surprisingly mobile, and the chest is very well protected. Everything else is plated with seams. It was clearly designed to protect against slashing and thrusting, but not crushing. Now, plate armor, European plate armor, is designed to be protect you against crushing. That's the pole arms, heavy axes, heavy hammers, war hammers, lucerne hammers. What are you defending against? That was kind of the whole thing. If you guys actually want to see how to make this, we will literally do how-to videos. I will start with a flat piece of plate steel, and we will turn it into a cased greave if you want to see how I do it. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it. I'm saying that's how I do it. And it fits, and it will stand up to damage. That seems to be, I think that's where the bar should be. Will it take a hit? My shit will take hits, all right, all day, man, because I've done it. And I will even show you some of my pieces that didn't quite take the hits the way they should have. But the guy walked away. He walked away. If he lived. I think that should be the bar. Did he live? Yes. Well, fuck yeah, it was a good piece of armor. That's kind of funny. Anyway, appreciate it, guys. Let us know. All right, and we will model some of these pieces. We'll hit some of these pieces. We can do whatever you want. I had the bazubands. I actually dropped an anvil on top of them and made a little video on that. It got 25,000 views on X. We've never had 25,000 views on anything. But I dropped an anvil on it, and it survived. It was fine.